Have you ever had that feeling? Like, there's a whole bunch of vital skills that just aren't really covered in school.
Hmm.
You know, you graduate, you step out into the real world, and bam, suddenly you realize you're kind of expected to know things that no textbook ever mentioned.
Yeah, it's like this hidden curriculum almost.
Exactly. So this deep dive, that's what we're exploring. Those exact skills, the ones so many of us end up learning the hard way, right? Often on the job, and sometimes, well, it costs us.
That's right. And our mission today really is to unpack two fascinating sources that highlight these blind spots in education.
Okay.
One gives this really broad overview of life and career skills, stuff that applies to pretty much everyone.
Right.
And the other, it offers very practical, business-focused insights, specifically from the world of health professionals. But the lessons apply way beyond that.
Interesting.
So our goal is to identify these missing pieces, understand the impact they have, the real impact on our lives, our careers, and maybe figure out what you can do about them.
Okay, let's dive in then. We're kicking off with an excerpt from Matt Perman's work, 3 Things They Don't Teach in School That We All Pay Dearly For. It's from What's Best Next.
Yeah.
And Perman, he really zeroes in on 3, well, crucial areas where maybe traditional schooling could do more.
And what's really striking is just how universal these 3 things are. It doesn't matter what field you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So Perman identifies them as, first, personal management. And that's not just, ticking off a to-do list. It's about knowing how to figure out and prioritize the right things to actually get done.
That's key.
Second, career management. So how do you navigate your whole professional journey effectively, beyond just having the technical
Talk
chunks?
strategy part.
Exactly. And third, leadership. Guiding others, building them up,
Okay.
and the consequence.
Well, Perman puts it pretty bluntly. Most of us end up having to learn these skills on our own, on the job.
Which sounds rough. He calls it a painful process. And, it's even worse when your colleagues are basically in the same boat, just trying to figure it all out together.
Yeah, the blind leading the blind almost.
Mhm.
And what really jumped out at me from Perman's analysis is this idea of a massive time deficit.
Mm-hmm.
He points out, look, even if you find good courses later, if you only start learning leadership when you get that first manager job at, say, 28,
Yeah.
you could be 14 or even 20 years behind where you potentially could have been.
Wow. That's quite a delay.
It is. And it's not just about lost time, is it? It feels like a fundamental handicap that slows down innovation, personal growth, just makes everything harder.
Totally.
I mean, I can definitely relate to that feeling sometimes, playing catch up on skills you thought everyone else just knew.
Absolutely. And it's not just about one person being behind. It's like a drag on the whole system, societally speaking. Well, Perman broadens the discussion. He doesn't just point fingers at schools. He notes that other institutions, he specifically mentions churches, have also kind of dropped the ball on leadership development.
Interesting angle.
Yeah, and he shares this unique perspective from the source, saying some churches actually oppose structured leadership development.
Oppose it. Why?
Apparently, sometimes it's seen as somehow worldly or unspiritual. That's the quote. Even though, as Perman argues, there's a foundational, even biblical mandate for leadership.
So it could be a philosophical block, not just an oversight.
Exactly. His point is that this resistance hinders growth in some potentially unexpected places.
Okay, so back to this idea of large costs to us as a society that Perman mentions. How does that actually play out beyond just, personal frustration?
Well, think about it. If a big chunk of our workforce is spending years just trying to get a grip on basic self-management, career planning, how to lead a team,
Right.
that's years they aren't spending fully innovating, building things, solving problems efficiently.
Okay, I see.
It leads to missed opportunities, maybe poor decisions, just a general inefficiency. It's really about all that lost potential, people not quite reaching what they could or contributing as much as they might.
It is a sobering thought, yeah. Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's dive into our second source. This one's from Embodia, excerpts from What They Didn't Teach You in School, How to Work Less, Earn More.
Mm-hmm.
This takes us into the realm of business skills, specifically for health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, the lessons seem pretty universal.
You really do.
And we've got insights here from 2 real heavyweights in that space. Paul, 1 Minute Practice, right? He's an expert on the franchise model.
Okay.
And Karim, independent contractor Ninja Megji, who's apparently a very successful independent contractor.
Right.
They're described as having warring models, which sounds intriguing, but they share this common goal: help health pros earn more, work less, and enjoy life. Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly. And what's compelling is how Paul Wright, with his age before beauty insights for business owners, just cuts right to the core, especially for starting, say, a franchise prototype.
What does he say?
His first two tips are basically non-negotiable. One, you must look at the available market. Is there actually enough demand, real hunger for what you offer?
Okay, market first.
Two, available labor. Because, as he puts it pretty bluntly, you aren't going to be doing the work yourself if you want to scale.
Right, you need people.
And he highlights what he calls a grave mistake, especially common, he says, among health practitioners.
Which is?
Falling in love with our product instead of falling in love with our market.
Oh, that's a big one.
Huge. Paul argues, look, the main job of any business owner is to identify a starving crowd and fill the need. It's about what people are desperate for, not just the cool thing you know how to do.
That's a really critical distinction. Focusing on the market need, not just your own service or skill.
Okay, but you mentioned warring models. Where do Paul and Kareem really differ? Is it just different ways of saying the same thing or genuinely different paths?
That's a great question, because they absolutely agree on the fundamental principle. You have to treat your practice like a business. No question there.
Okay.
But their approach to building that business, that's where they diverge. Paul is all about scalability, systems, delegation, classic franchise thinking, right?
Yeah.
Build something that runs without you being there 24/7.
Makes sense. And Kareem?
Kareem, the ninja. He's focused much more on optimizing the individual independent contractor, making you, the practitioner, incredibly efficient and effective.
Okay.
He points out that, technical excellence just gets you a ticket to enter the marketplace. It doesn't guarantee success. Just being good at the doing part isn't enough.
So true.
Instead, he really emphasizes the need to spend time working on the business. And he clarifies, which in this case is you.
Yeah.
You are the business. Okay, working on the business of yourself. That sounds a little abstract, though. How does Kareem suggest you actually do that?
Oh, he makes it very practical. He talks about the power of small incremental changes, tiny improvements.
Like what?
He notes, if you improved your practice by just 2% on a weekly basis, your practice will soon be a completely different one. Just small, consistent steps.
2% a week? That adds up.
It really does. And this allows you to systemize, increase productivity, increase patient results, and make yourself more efficient. Crucially, without working those back-breaking hours.
Okay, working smarter, not just harder.
Exactly. And he also stresses something deeper, the critical role of having a purpose. Why are you doing this? He even references Conor McGregor attributing victories to internal work he did with Tony Robbins. That internal drive matters.
Purpose, huh? Interesting connection.
Yeah, and he also touches on something called the 3 C's for championing client sessions. He suggests those are really valuable concepts for listeners to explore further if they want to optimize how they work with clients or patients.
Got it. It's really fascinating hearing about these two. Paul, who apparently owns 6 successful clinics in Australia, visiting them only a few hours a week and not even living in the same city as 5 of them?
Yeah.
That's serious system mastery.
That's the franchise model perfected.
Right. And then Kareem, coming from a behavioral psychology background and applying that unique lens to the health business.
Yeah.
Very different paths.
Completely different angles, but both converging on this core idea of smart business practice and continuous self-improvement.
Okay, so let's try and tie these two sources together. We have Perman talking broad, personal, career, leadership gaps. And then Wright and Meiji drilling down into specific business strategies, albeit for health pros. What's the big takeaway when you put them side by side?
Well, despite the different focuses, one broad, one quite specific, they both really hammer home a critical truth. Traditional education, formal schooling, often leaves these significant gaps in practical, real-world skills.
Yeah, that seems clear.
And these aren't just minor things like nice-to-haves. They're fundamental capabilities for actually navigating modern life, careers, maybe even starting your own thing.
Right.
What's clear from both sources is that whether you're managing yourself, planning a career, leading a team, or running a full-blown business, the skills you really need, well, you often end up having to teach them to yourself.
And that's exactly why this deep dive matters so much to you, the listener. This isn't just some academic critique of schools.
No.
It's about what you can do right now. Just understanding that these gaps exist empowers you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It helps you proactively seek out the knowledge you need.
Absolutely.
Whether that's in personal management, career strategy, leadership, or that market-focused business thinking we heard about. It applies if you're an employee trying to move up, a manager trying to build your team, or someone dreaming of starting their own venture. This knowledge,
Mm,
it's power.
well said.
So as we wrap this up, it feels like the main point is this. Yes, formal education gives us essential foundations, absolutely critical stuff.
Mm.
But real success, real fulfillment,
Yeah.
often hinges on mastering these hidden curricula we talked about. Personal laugh at critics, smart career moves, leading well, thinking like a savvy business owner. These are the skills that truly propel you forward.
Which leads us to a final thought, maybe a provocative question for you to chew on.
Okay.
What hidden curriculum are you currently learning right now, maybe the hard way, on the job, something that wasn't covered back in school?
Hmm.
And maybe more importantly, what proactive steps could you take starting today to master it faster? Or, thinking bigger picture, how could you even share that knowledge with others? Help prevent some of that future spinning wheels for the people coming up behind you.